Hi, I recently watched Dementia 13 from 1963, a very low budget shocker from the Roger Corman stable. That was, in fact, Francis Ford Coppola's first film as director. He was entrusted with the project uh, by Corman to write and direct it on a very low budget, around $20,000, although he managed to double it by making a deal with a distributor. And it was intended as a psycho cash in. So we have a young blonde woman after an amount of money. There's a mid-film twist, um, a long buried murder and its consequences for a family, and a psychologist investigating who ultimately unravels the whole thing. Played in this film by Patrick Magee. It's a stylish film. It's quite competently made given the restrictions placed upon it by budget. The actors were people Coppola knew from UCLA, so are not either particularly well known or especially talented, notably. But the film really falls apart towards the end. There's a section that appears to be a flashback as one character is explaining something to another, but in fact, the film seems to be jumping forward in time and it never goes back again. So we get the impression that a large chunk of the film has actually been removed. Um, there's this strange disconnect of unexplained material towards the film's end, then that doesn't make sense, and as a result, the film doesn't really cohere properly. It's a great shame because it's largely rather good. There's a degree of style to it. Coppola sold the film to Corman as an axe murder every 20 minutes or so. That someone is burying something in a pond, surfaces, and immediately has their head chopped off by a mysterious killer. There's a lot of psycho influence on the movie, and there's a great music score, which I enjoyed a great deal from Ronald Stein, I believe. But it's overall never really much more than competent. The unusual nature of its background being countered by how it simply falls apart towards the end. Corman had tried to sell the film as a William Castle like shocker with warnings that it was not for the faint-hearted and that people would have to fill out special forms to indemnify the distributor against being sued if they should die from fear, that kind of thing. But really, the film is somewhat beyond that. And had Coppola actually been allowed to finish it the way he wanted, it might well have turned out to be a bit more coherent, rather than have Corman interfere and try and make more money out of it. As a result, it's not much more than a curiosity. Coppola would himself go on to make horror much later in his career with Bram Stoker's Dracula. But Dementia 13 is really not much more than part of the whole wave of psycho cash ins released in the early 60s, albeit one with an unusually high level pedigree.